That's our slate. So we compare the video to the audio.
Episode 9. Mark Stafford from the TAB, face of the TAB for 2 decades.
Two decades.
That's the statistic?
Yeah, statistic. I started there when I was 12.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. Nah, thanks for coming on, mate. It's good. We'd like to obviously see what you've been up to. What's been going on recently?
Oh, recently? Well, the last year's been a shit year. Got laid off from the TAB almost a year ago. It was June 2nd, I think. I got the 8:30 phone call.
8:30.
8:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's wake up, innit?
Yeah, I was told on the Friday, we were all told on the Friday, your managers will contact you on the Monday and about our restructure and what that looks like. I'm like, okay. So and then I got the phone call, so you've been disestablished. And I'm like,
Disestablished.
your role has been disestablished. That role's no longer required.
Is that it? Is that all they gave you
That's what I got, yeah.
after all those years?
Yeah, and you could contest it if you wanted and stuff like that. But later that day, our GM came on and just told us what the new strategy looked like, and I could see I didn't fit in the new strategy. And you could plead your case if you wanted, but within 24 hours, I was like, I looked at the strategy. I didn't agree with the strategy, but there was no room in it for me. And to keep my job, they'd have to rewrite the strategy, and I was never going to win that fight. So I just flew the white flag and I said, "Okay, sweet, I accept it." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like most people fought, and I was just like, "No, I'm done." So I sort of had to wait 2 or 3 weeks before I actually had to go back, give the security guard, give the company car keys, the swipe card, the laptop, and so see you later. Weird feeling, boy.
Very weird feeling.
Especially after all those years.
Yeah.
But Henry and I admire was you kind of after that you helped out a lot more other people to help them deal with job redundancy after that. So
yeah, and I think it was like I was doing this. Part of my mental therapy was painting, and I actually started doing it before I was laid off. Like we were in lockdown. I think New Zealand was in lockdown 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And like the first week, and I used to live by myself. And the first week was sweet, the Michael Jordan thing was on Netflix. Good was that? And that was awesome. And we were still doing a bit of work trying to find sport to bet on and blah, blah, blah. And the second week, I was sick of my own bloody company. The only person I ever saw was the security guard at Countdown, and I was going to the supermarket every 2 days just to see a person. You just go in and get some bread and some bacon and then go home. And but it was just like, it was tough, and I thought I need to do something, man, because I'm a shocker at exercising. I just get quite bored, and I don't like being puffed, So I was just eating and watching Netflix. Oh, this isn't good. So I just went online, ordered some canvases, ordered some paint, ordered some paintbrushes, and thought, wonder if I can remember how to do this, and just started painting. And so yeah, I'd been doing painting during that time, got laid off, and I just used the painting as a people said, was that therapeutic for you to get through that? And I'm like, nah. But it was, you have to concentrate so hard painting.
Yeah.
Your mind's turned off from all the shit that's going on, So I just got into the painting. I was doing this painting and my phone was going bing, bing, bing. And I'm like, what the? I'm trying to concentrate here. And I looked at it and all these people said, oh, is the rumour true? Have you been laid off? And I'm like, yeah. And they're, oh, I'm so sorry, bro. And then they'd obviously told a couple of people. And so my phone was just going nuts. And this was about 2 weeks after I'd been laid off. So I did a Facebook post and I'm not a person that does videos on their Facebook to talk about themselves. I'm not that person, but all I wanted to do was to get the phone to shut the hell up. I thought if I tell everyone and then they know, then they'll just leave me alone. So I did a Facebook post and just said, yep, been laid off. And I thank the TAB, and I still do, for all the opportunities. And, I've learned so much having worked for them. And then just before I pushed off, I just said, actually, there's a lot of people going through what I'm going through at the moment. So if you know someone in my position, here's how you can help them. Because I always try and help people, I always try and see a sunny side up, not usually for myself, but usually for other people. So, I knew a lot of people were being laid off in the country. So the best help I got, I had a mate, Rowan, and my sister, Tracy, Tracy was the emotional one, Rowan was the practical one, and that's all I needed. And you just needed to talk to them each day, and you just needed them to listen, not to give you solutions, not to give you, oh, this is what you got to do. You got to do this, and I had a guy and he did this, and but you don't need any of that advice. You just need someone to be there. And so I said that on the Facebook thing. Put my phone down. I posted it on Facebook. Put my phone down. Went back to my painting. My phone's going bing, 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 even more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man. So I'm not going to look at it. Finish the painting. Look down. 200 comments on the Facebook. Like 6 missed calls, text messages from people that knew me. so Mormons come back. And then I got rung by the project, and I got rung by 7 Sharp, and they said, that last part of your thing, that's so valuable. And I'm like, oh yeah. And they said, would you be happy to come and do it on camera? And normally I'd go, nah, but I'd had like half an hour of looking at all these people on Facebook that I didn't know, saying that was so helpful. Thanks so much. My brother's lost his job. My son, my husband, my daughter, lost their job. We didn't know how best to help them, and that's really helped. So when the TV stations asked me if I'd do it, I thought, help them. That's a bigger platform than my shitty little Facebook page. So the project rung, and I said I'd do it. Then half an hour later, 7 Sharp rung, and I said, oh, look, I'm happy to do it, but just full disclosure, I'm doing the project in about half an hour. And they're like, oh, we'll get back to you. And then they rang back and said, yep, we still want you. And so I went and did the project, and that was an experience. Like, it was the first time I'd spoken about it to someone that wasn't my sister or my mate.
Yeah, right.
And like, I thought, if I'm going to do this properly, I firmly believe any interviews, podcasts, whatever, you just got to be 100% honest and 100% vulnerable. And I thought, if I want people to get help out of this, I got to tell them 100% how I'm feeling, And so I did. And it was about, I think they only played about 2 minutes of it, but it was about a 15-minute interview before they edited it, and we finished. And the cameraman came out from behind his camera, and he was bawling his eyes out, eh?
Oh, really?
And he said, bro, that was so raw, that was so honest. And I'm like, oh, you got to be, And then I jumped in the car, went to TVNZ, and then they did me live right at the start of 7 Sharp. So I thought, oh yeah, they've done that so they can look like they beat the project because they're competing shows. But I got amazing feedback from that. And then I got approached by the Herald, and they did a feature on me about dealing with redundancy. And I just radio stations and newspapers all over the place. So I sort of became a bit of a spokesperson for the people that have been made redundant, because like, I'm not scared of the camera, and a lot of people freeze up in front of the camera. I had a bit of a profile in New Zealand, so people could sort of resonate that, and I don't see myself as a high profile person. I'm just a normal battler like anyone else, but it had happened to me, and people knew who I was. So yeah, if it helped people, I'm all about helping people, So that's sort of that's why I did that.
Shit, yeah. So how did you get into art? Because I've seen some of the paintings, and they're very, very good, by the way.
Thank you very much. I'm looking around at this. Well, look at the state of that one.
That's artist.
That's done by Picasso himself.
So did you grow up with kind of an art background, or is it something you picked up later on in life? How did you get into it?
No, I've told the story before, but it's weird. Like, I was taught by my maths teacher, and like my form teacher in sixth form, Paul Motion was his name, and he's a great man, and he was quite alternative. And in his classroom, like the classic Palmy Boys high school classroom is normally just blank walls, rows of desks, blackboard at the front. But he had these 4 massive portraits on his wall. So he had Marilyn Monroe, Al Pacino, David Bowie, someone like Fred Astaire. So massive. I'm talking probably about 8 foot by 4 foot on the wall.
That big?
Yeah, they were enormous, yeah. And
he's a math teacher.
He was a maths teacher.
Maths classroom.
Yeah.
And he had paintings on his wall.
And he'd painted them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just cool. It was just a cool classroom.
Yeah.
And I was a massive Bowie fan in those days, right? Like massive, like right into music. And I said I wanted to buy it off him. And he said, nah. He said, I'll teach you how to paint it. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, come back after school and I'll teach you. So he had this method of how you do these massive, big paintings. And then he just taught me, and it's just sort of gridded. And So it was like it was the picture of, it was off the front of one of his album covers. And so you just have the album cover next to this massive canvas. And I went back after school about 2 hours a night, 2 nights a week for about 4 weeks. And he taught me his method. And that's the only painting I ever did. And so I had one, took it home, had it. And then it's the only painting I ever did. And then about, went to Bowie 5 or 6 years ago. And my sisters contacted me and said, you still got that painting of Bowie? And I said, no, that like shattered. It was just done. I just did it on the shitty cheap hardboard, and it broke when I was shifting one of my 15 flats in Palmerston North. it shattered into a whole lot of pieces, and I said, no, I haven't. I'm gutted actually. And then I was just sort of thinking, I wonder if I could still do it. So I didn't have Google back in those days, so I Googled that album cover, bought a big canvas, and then thought I'd give it a go, and I did it, and I was just like, that was pretty cool, and I thought I quite enjoyed that. So sort of the week later I went and bought another canvas, and I thought, what shall I paint now? So and I've got a friend that's an artist, and she's in Colorado, and she's an amazing artist, and she always put time lapses up of her art. Her paintings are just so good, but they take her about a month to do, and they sell for like 20 grand, and she's a proper artist. So I just thought, I'll paint Michael Jackson in one of his classic poses, and I'll time-lapse it and just see what it looks like. So I painted it and time-lapsed it, and I watched it, and I went, shit, that's pretty cool. So I put it on Facebook and said, look what I did today. And within 20 minutes, 4 people wanted to buy it. And I'm like, oh. And they're like, how much is it? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know.
How much these things go for?
And I said, what do you reckon? And then a friend of mine messaged me and said, he's my favourite of all time. How much is it? And I said, well, 4 other people have asked me. I said, I don't know what to do. And she said, well, ask them how much they're prepared to pay, and I'll match the top price. So I sold it for $500.
Really?
So, yeah. So then I was just like, oh. And then that was the only one I'd done. And then I sort of practiced a little bit on little canvases, and I've still got those 4 hanging on my bedroom, the 4 I used to practice with as a reminder of where I started. And so I've got John Lennon, Marilyn Monroe, Al Pacino. Who's the 4th one? I said, and Fred Astaire are on my, and they're just black and whites, you know. And then in lockdown, just started painting, and then the Michael Jordan one, that mini-series was on. I thought, I might just paint a Michael Jordan and put it on Facebook and see what happens. Boom. 8 orders.
Fuck,
Really?
Yeah.
How long do these ones take? The black and white ones?
They range from like, I think the longest one was about 14 hours.
Yeah.
That was a horse.
Yeah.
That was so hard. Down to about, I can't normally do one under 4 hours. Like I've been asked to go and paint live at certain events, and then and then they'll auction them off at the end of the night at a fundraiser. And I said, but I can't get it done in 3 hours, you know. Like, and they said, can you start it and bring it? And I said, well, it sort of defeats the purpose. Like you turn up with a half finished canvas, and then I was going to do one at Ellerslie on Auckland Cup Day. They're still going to do it actually, of a painting, and so I had 6 hours, and I said, I can do it in 6 hours. So they're going to set me up with on an easel and a huge big canvas in front of the main stand, and I'm just going to paint all day. But that'd be quite cool, because people always say to me, man, it doesn't take long, eh? And I'm like, bro, that's 6 hours into time lapse into 40 seconds. Can you see how fast? And they said, you don't even take breaks. And I said, mate, one of those times I went and made lunch and ate it, and then came back and didn't turn the time. I was gone for about 25 minutes, and when you watch the time lapse, I'm gone,
and then back.
I'm back.
Yeah.
And that's 25 minutes. And like, oh yeah, because you just look like you. And I said, look for costume changes too. That's like the next day, you know. I actually really enjoy it now. Yeah.
Well, that's well, for the people that are listening, it's a paint vine art. It's one of those ones where you go to a bar and then you have a drink, and then there's a teacher that does only just kind of copy them, but it's good because you end up a few beers deep and a few gins deep, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, were you always artistically gifted? Would you say like you always drew on a piece of paper? Like
no, never. Like if you got me a pen and paper now and told me to draw a giraffe, it'd come out looking like a helicopter. It's just like.
See, like you know, I like doodling on stuff, but I could never actually really have a good masterpiece. I just don't. Some people are born with.
Yeah, it's funny. I can't. People ask me to sign my paintings and stuff, and I just don't. I won't, because I feel like an artist sign, and I don't classify myself as an artist because I copy everything. You can't give me a blank canvas and say paint me something. I need to copy something, and I'm open and honest about that. Like, I have to copy something, and I use my little grid technique, and I have little pencil marks, and so I don't time lapse like the hour and a half prep that I do. And it sounds weird, but for about the first half hour, I have the picture in front of me, and I sit on the couch and I look at the blank canvas. And I get into like this Zen mode where I'm just plotting, and I'm just like, just full of visualization. If you walked in and saw me, you think, man, that guy's on mushrooms, because I'm just like wired, and I'm just so in the moment, and then I just get up and I just like put my marks, and then I always have out of camera shot the picture. It's either on a bar stool just underneath me, or on the floor or something, and then I just go, and then I just get into the flow and I just go.
Man, so with your paintings, are you selling them? Like, is it all charity stuff, or are you actually like selling them?
No, I sell them. So what the charities do now is I'll sell them to them, and just for normal price, and then they always hit that mark. So like, this probably won't be out by the time so I've just done a Stacey Jones. Nice. So the Warriors are launching a charity to help, I think, or using rugby league and the Warriors program to help less fortunate kids. And rugby league is a pathway to unity and clubs and family environment and all that. So they're launching this in a couple of weeks, and Stacey Jones and Ruben Wiki are going to be there. Oh, nice. So so I've painted Stacey Jones, and so that'll go up for auction. I charge them for that, and then I'd be surprised if that didn't sell for like over $3,000, and they just keep the profit, and nice. Like, I had this amazing event. It was so amazing it was almost embarrassing. And there's a guy in Wellington who does an incredible job for charity, right? And he has this thing called the Champions Lunch, and he has it every year, once a year, at Sky Stadium in the members lounge, and he gets 300 or 400 people in there, and he has all the big dick swinging money men in there.
Oh, really?
And he gets amazing guests, but he sort of has a theme, and so I think the theme last year was like Andy Hayden, who passed away last year, former All Black. So he got me to paint Andy Hayden, Brian Lahore, and someone else on a long skinny one, just these three heads, columnids, those three. And then he said, I might get you to do me another one, because we're in the guts of COVID, and everyone was watching Jacinda and Ashley on TV every day. So I painted Jacinda Ardern and Ashley Bloomfield and got it signed by both of them. And so that went up for auction in Wellington at his Champions Lunch. Jacinda and Ashley sold for $7,000, and the rugby one sold for $6,000. I'm like, I'm in the wrong business. I should be charging more. And then he said, it was awesome. And he said, I'm actually doing a Champions Lunch in Auckland in a month. Do another Jacinda and Ashley, and we'll get it signed. And he said, can you do one of Colin Meads, Stan Meads, and Brian Lahore? And I said, yeah, okay. So I painted those two. And then about a week later, he said, I want you to come to the function. I said, yep, I can come. It was at the Hilton. And then he said, can you do me a painting of like Ian Kirkpatrick? And you guys are probably too young to know who Ian Kirkpatrick is, a former All Black. And he says, he's a good mate of mine. He's always been good to me, and I'd really like one of Ian Kirkpatrick. And I said, yep, sweet. So I had quite a cheap canvas there, and I just thought it was for him for his office, right? So It wasn't a big one. It was, most of mine are like 1 metre by 750. This was like a 600 by 400, and I just sort of banged one out in about 3 hours of Ian Kirkpatrick. I thought, oh yeah, sweet. So I go to this function, and it's raising money for the Stroke Foundation. Jacinda goes up for auction. That's all for 8,000. And then the rugby players one went up, and they went for 7,000. I'm like, far out, 15 grand, that's awesome. And then he gets up on stage and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome our special guest, Ian Kirkpatrick, to the stage. So Ian Kirkpatrick gets up and he gives an awesome talk, and he's a legend. And he gives an awesome talk about the stroke. And then walking across the stage is the Ian Kirkpatrick painting. I'm like, oh, bro. And he says, and Ian Kirkpatrick will sign it for you, and you can have a photo with him and all of that. And I don't know if you guys remember that TV3 had that show with all those former All Blacks getting fit again.
Yeah.
With the Ronnie Clark and all these guys, and they were all getting fit again, and Piri Wepu and all these guys. And they were all in the room, and they'd spread them all around a separate table. And there was this guy sitting at a Ronnie Clark's table. And so the bidding started on this Ian Kirkpatrick, you know, went 4,000, 4.5, 5, and then it slowed down. And Ronnie just taps his big sponsor going, you know, 6, 6.5, and it's all for 10 grand.
Wow.
And everyone's just patting me on the back and shaking my hand. I just wanted to crawl under the table. I felt like such a fraud, you know. And I'm sitting in this room, and 3 of my paintings just sold for 25 grand, you know, and I'd got like $1,800. But Stroke Foundation made like 23 grand off it. It's awesome, you know.
That's amazing.
So it's pretty cool, but you know, it's really been my only income since I got laid off, and I was seriously considering making it my career.
Yeah, like I mean, I wouldn't say you got the time, but you definitely have the love for it. So
yeah, I did have the time. You know, I did have the time, and I really struggled with a mindset switch of it had always just been a hobby and a pastime, and I did it for fun, and I didn't want to do it for a job. I just wanted to continue doing it when I wanted to do it. Like I'd paint like a painting every day for 4 days, and then I wouldn't do one for 2 weeks because it didn't feel like it. And then I'd get like 4 orders, which is awesome, but by the time you're doing the 4th thing, I'm hating this, you know, I want to love it. You know?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
You know, I want it to be my pastime and stuff, and I needed to get over myself, bro, because I was in a world of financial hurt, after the redundancy ran out, and I even had a guy ring me and offered to make me a website for free, as he was in his last month of a web design course, and one of their projects was to design a
website,
living, breathing, working website for a business, and he offered it to me, and I said no, because I was still in that, it's my hobby, not my job, and I'm going to have a career in broadcasting, and I'm going to do this, and huge mistake, you know, because I haven't marketed my painting. All I do is put it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, sit there, orders coming. It's weird, bro. Like, you know, I just did one for a laugh the other night. Just one for me. It was like a Banksy type style, and I just painted it because I quite liked it. And 4 people wanted to buy it within half an hour. And I said, wow, you know. And I knew the only time I'd done it intentionally was the Michael Jordan. And I painted 8 Michael Jordans in 2 weeks, which was awesome. But I've done you know, I could go and knock on doors of all the charities, all the fundraisers, all of that, and say, look, you can buy a painting for $500-600. Show them the videos of the auctions where they sell, and it's a no-brainer for them. And I'm happy with that. I'm not overcharging them. Charity makes money. I pay my power bill. Everyone wins, you know. So it's cool though. But if I've just got another job after a year, and if that didn't happen, I probably would have been either driving trucks, doing painting at night, or don't know what I would have done, eh?
So that job is with, is it SEN?
SEN, Sports Entertainment
Which is going to
Network.
be SENZ for the NZ kind of outlet.
Yeah.
And what's the deal there? They're taking over the TAB frequencies?
So the TAB had 30 radio frequencies through the country.
Yeah.
So radio frequencies, you just can't create them. So New Zealand's got all the radio frequencies it will ever have. They're all being used, the whole lot.
Yeah.
They're maxed out. So when one comes up, they're rare and people buy them. So, you know, there might be a regional radio station in Hawera, for example, and they just go, we can't sustain it, and they put their frequency up for sale and make some money. And then ZB might take it, or the Hits or Coast or someone like that might come and take it. So the TAB's 30 frequencies came up. And
a frenzy, right?
Yeah, it was a feed frenzy, and there were probably companies that wanted a couple of them, but SEN are a phenomenal network. So they've got pretty much got all of provincial Australia, and now they're in Perth, Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. They're now in all the metropolitans, and they're, I mean, I haven't started there yet, but you know they've got Adam Gilchrist does breakfast in Perth. They've got big hitters, big names, and the pulling power of them for advertisers, the pulling power, like SENZ has got Brendan McCullum and Israel Dagg doing breakfast. Brendan McCullum can text Shane Warne and say, we're ringing in the morning. He goes, sweet, I text Shane Warne and he go, fuck off. So the pulling power and just the access to people. So we actually had our first Zoom meeting yesterday with all of the New Zealand talent, all of the New Zealand producers, and 90 of the SEN Australia staff. So all their financial controllers, their HR people, and Craig, who's the CEO, who's an absolute rooster. Just loves his sport, loves his beers, loves his racing, just a good Aussie bloke. Mm-hmm. He just wanted us to introduce ourselves to all the Aussie team, and it was awesome, and we are just so fizzed to get going.
I was going to ask, is that due to the gap in the market purely because there's no radio sport anymore? Is that one of the kind of key factors?
Yeah, so it's a 24-hour sports station, which radio sport was, but there's certain things that they're looking at doing which are friggin' exciting. It's pretty exciting, and we'll get access, I think, to a lot of the Aussie talent that New Zealanders just haven't been able to get to and stuff like that. Like we'll have good ins with rugby league talent and cricket talent and all of that sort of thing, and there's real definitive what breakfast looks like, what 9 to 12 with Ian Smith looks like, what 12 to 4 looks like with me, and then they've just signed Beaver, Donald and Kirsty Stanway for 4 to 7. So they're all going to be quite different rather than, they'll set up for the next show, but then it's quite a different show and then quite a different show. And they're going 24 hours too. So I don't know what they're going to do overnight. Do you boys want a gig?
Yeah,
sign us up.
Mate, I'm free. I'm free. I'll make way for that.
Free.
Are you allowed to talk about what your slot's going to be about?
I'm still sort of, I guess by the time this gets released, we're probably on the air.
Back on, yeah.
Yeah, so we've sort of been given a pretty open brief to roll how we want to. So my real passion in media is long-form interviews like you guys are doing with podcasting. I did a radio show on TAB for over 10 years on Saturday mornings for 2 hours, probably 8 or 9 guests over the 2 hours. And so you get like 7 or 8 minutes with each guest. And for me, it was just like you're just scratching the surface, You get people like Kevin Barry, and I always allowed him 2 slots because for 20 minutes, you probably only need 2 questions because he's just such a good talker and such a good storyteller. And I love storytelling and I love getting people to tell their stories. So they're really receptive to long form interviews. So hopefully a typical day for me will look like 12 to 1, I'll have a guest in studio with me, a sports person, administrator, a coach, a referee or whatever, and we'll just talk about them. And then 1 to 1:30, callers can ring and ask them questions. That's my ideal. If I can get Dan Carter in there for an hour and a half, hallelujah, I'm hoping. But Israel Dagg will probably get him before me. But yeah, that's my goal, is to get someone like him in for an hour and talk about his career, and then ask them to stay on for half an hour and callers can ring up and
ask questions
and, and that'll be cool. And I don't know, the balance is probably going to be 50% talkback because I really want the callers to guide the show. I don't want to sit there and tell them what they have to listen to. I want them to be part of the product. So I'll probably say that on day one. I've got an idea. I've got a few ideas, but man, just message me on Twitter, email me, call me, tell me what you want. Because I don't want to sit here assuming what you want to know. I've got a huge passion for telling stories that haven't been told too. So we all know the All Black stories. We all know the Black Cap stories. But, I love surfing. I love MMA. I love sailing. I love cycling. I'd love to talk to. There's a kid going to the Olympics on the 3-meter springboard. No one's heard of him.
Really?
Yeah. Talk to me about diving, bro. What's up? And it'll be a story no one's heard.
Exactly. Oh, and then people definitely turn heads and go,
yeah,
this is quite
it'll
interesting.
Just be interesting. Like, we've got a guy that went to the world champs of the gumboot throwing. I mean, and he qualified he was just at the show in Ashburton with his girlfriend, and they just had a gumboot throwing competition. She said, you could probably throw that. So he went down, threw a gumboot, broke the New Zealand record, qualified for the World Champs, went to Denmark. I mean, no one knows those stories, and I like the stories behind the stories, you know. So
the humble beginnings. And
so when I did the podcast on Beaver, I didn't talk to him about the World Cup and that winning goal kick, and most podcasts would have, but that story's been done to death. And his stories about going to school at Wesley was just so awesome. How they had KFC for lunch every day,
the boys, the fellas,
every day, and he just hung out with the Fijians.
Yeah.
Siddhavini Sivivasti was his good mate at school, and after that had KFC every day for like 3 months. Beaver said, this isn't very healthy, City. And he's going, oh, no, we're getting coleslaw. It's all good. Yeah. So I love the backstories and the background stories and the stories that haven't been told, and getting to know the people, you know. I can tell you that I've got Ben O'Keefe, who's probably the best New Zealand's top rugby referee. I've locked him in for a segment every Monday that I'm going to call probably Ref. Yeah, and just explain the decisions from the games in the weekend, because one of my absolute ball aches is because I've been to thousands of rugby games, is the fans, and I'm not bagging them, but they don't know the rules.
They don't know the rules, yeah.
Like the referee will just give a penalty and they'll boo him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he broke the rules, you know, and people don't know about the ruck and don't know about the second man and the tackle, and they don't know about mitigating circumstances, and they don't know about all these different things. And the referees all of them are great fellas. I've got to know them, and they're just good roosters. And the idea of that came up. I watched an All Blacks test at the end of last year with 3 Super Rugby referees at a guy's house, and they found it fascinating watching with me, and I found it fascinating watching with them, because something would happen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's red. And they're like, really? Why do you think that's red? And I said, because he tipped him up and drove him down. He said, but he landed on the shoulder. I said, I don't care. He did that. And they said, if he landed on his head, it's red. And if he landed on his shoulder, it's yellow. And if he landed on his back, it's a penalty. I said, you can't tell me the guy doing that in the tackle, tipping him, is going, I'm going to get him to land on his shoulder, not his head, so I don't get a red card. And so it was just these amazing discussions. So, yeah, I just want to educate. Well, I just want people to have a bit of clarity about referees' role. So stuff that hasn't been talked about.
You use that little segment for people to ask questions, and
they
can give their verdict on what actually happened.
Yeah, so I talked to Ben the other day, and I just said I've got a real appetite for people to see the personal side of it, about how does he train, how does he prepare. Like, Ben is a qualified surgeon. He's no dumbass. He is a super intelligent man, and highly qualified in his field, and he's a rugby referee. And people that just go, oh, he's such a dumbass, and I'm like, bro, he is super calm, refereeing rugby versus life-saving surgery, and just get them to learn about these guys and learn about their decision-making, learn about, referees have to make decisions they don't want to make, but they're the rules.
Yeah.
And they're told you have to crack down hard on this, and so he's, a scrum goes down, the ball's about to be out, he has to blow it up, just all those sorts of things. I just want to furnish the people with a bit of wisdom.
Oh, shit.
We'll definitely be listening in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't happen to know an Angus maybe?
I know Gus.
Yes. Another cousin of mine.
Oh, jeez. You're one of those widely bred.
You could say that, right?
Yeah, no, I've talked to him about it. It's pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
Especially, he does a lot of the first 15 games, and then he
does Mitre 10. And
yeah.
He might have done a super. I know he does touch on super.
Yeah, touch on super.
No, but he's a good rooster. And referees are just fascinating to talk to. Like, they're really approachable, they're really honest, and they're really open, but New Zealand never hears from them. So that's partly what my show in my head is. I want people to hear things that they want to hear that they've never heard. Even if they don't know they want to hear it, once they hear Ben O'Keefe, they'll want to hear him.
Absolutely. Let's get into a bit about how you two guys met.
Well, us?
Yes. How did it come about?
I was just sifting around the Radio Shack at the America's Cup, and then
I came out. I teed up PJ Montgomery to come and
that's right,
talk in the studio, because I was producing the build-up show for the America's Cup.
Oh, right.
So were you contracted by TVNZ
Yeah.
that whole period? Are you still doing any work with them at the moment, or
No, so that was just for the America's Cup. I might be going back for the Olympics and producing that similar sort of role, which will be, holy heck, that's 6 p.m. till 2 a.m.
Shit.
And then I'll be up at 8 and go and do radio. So, yeah, I'll have 3 weeks of 16-hour days, but bring it on. That's what contractors do.
Exactly.
But no, so I'd teed up PJ Montgomery, and he'd been on, and when the racing starts, I usually head back up to the office and start writing the script for the next day. So I wanted to go over and thank PJ for coming in, and Leo was doing co-commentary, and I was sitting there and I was listening to him, and I thought, interesting. He's got quite a good take on this. Not a bad looking fella. He's from the younger set, and I said to Phil, I said, who's that fella? And he said, oh, Leo. And I said, what's his pedigree? Yeah, he's going to the Olympics for Japan. And I said, oh, yeah. So I went back up to the work, and I just said, I think I've got a guy for the couch. Let's give him a crack. Young fella, because we were all about balance of, female representation, old sailors, young sailors, and blah, blah, blah. So we got Len on, and turned up looking like a surfy. Like
party shirt on.
Party shirt, hair all over the shop. And I was like, yeah, you're cool, bro, but it's TVNZ now, And but his content was awesome. And I said to Mel, what'd you think? She goes, love him, clean him up. Mel was the big boss. Yeah. And then when we actually got to the Cup, I think I texted Leo and I said, what did I say? Bring your A game and bring your A wardrobe or something. Yeah. And he came in looking magnificent.
The haircut, mate.
Got the haircut, shaved, ironed the shirt, and he just strode in. He was like, there he is.
Who's this guy? But no, it was a cool experience, eh? But it's like so different going from a sailing back, doing sailing, and then stepping back and actually watching sailing and commentating it. It was a whole new side of the story. But how did you find the Cup?
I loved it, bro. Like it was, I'd been out of work for 6 months, so I had a job. But just being back in a team dynamic, and
it was a really good team, wasn't it? It was an awesome team.
Just there were no bad bastards in there. And when you think we had a team of probably 30, they were all awesome. And like even when we got Dean Barker in, and I wouldn't say I was concerned, but I was just like, he's quite a monotoned.
Because you keep telling him, just give us a little smile, Dean.
Just a little smile.
It won't hurt.
and a little nod.
A little nod.
And I was I wasn't scared of him, but I was just like, how will he take feedback? Because he's like an elite athlete. And I said to Mel, she says, you got to get Dean to lift it up, because TV dilutes you. So you can feel like you're here. I think I told you. You can feel like you're here, but TV will make you there. So if you start there, TV will make you there. And so I said to Dean, the turning point for him, I had a sentence and I didn't know it would work the magic, but it did. And I said to him, mate, you're not a guest anymore. You're part of the team. And you could almost see him change, and I just said, don't wait for Tony or Scotty to ask you a question. Just jump in. If Phil says something you disagree with, go, no, mate. I said, it's a conversation pit. It's not a panel. And so we'd always quite like getting Phil and Leo on together because they could slay each other, but it wasn't shit talk, it was actually yachting talk, and it was so good. And people like Leo, like extraordinary sailor, like he would know more about sailing than 99% of the viewers. So you don't have to pretend, you don't have to make anything up, you just say what you know, and it just enriches everyone's viewing experience. And I always I do a lot of coaching and stuff with people that are new in media, or they have to give a speech or something like that. And let's say, for example, say you're a bloody expert skateboarder and there's some outfit wants you to go and talk about skateboarding and stuff, and you go, what do I talk about? Just talk about what you know. No one else there knows as much as you. And just talk about it, and it'll all be new stuff to them. So all the TVNZ people was all new stuff to them. And just telling us what the difference between that and that is, and why he went there and not there. It's
a big part of it, because at the first times I remember I was a bit nervous about what I was going to say and actually trying to think about what I was going to say. But when you started explaining it in that sense, it doesn't really matter. Like the viewers aren't going to really know much.
They don't know what you don't say.
And especially for a sport like sailing as well, there's probably, with rugby in New Zealand, you expect, a lot of people to know generally what
Yeah.
majority of the rules are, but when it comes to sailing, there is a shitload of stuff. Even the basics are hard to get your head around. Like, I know every time we watch sailing or we're watching, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here, what's happening here. So, yeah, I mean, it is a good dynamic to have. And did I ever see Steely and you on the same panel?
No, Steely and I
just interchanging.
Didn't get to go with Steely.
Didn't go together.
Didn't go with Steely.
Now, because
I
once
disagreed with everything he said, though. Absolutely.
it was quite funny because Steely on the radio was really opinionated.
Yeah.
And on the TV he wasn't quite as much until his last
Really?
gig. Until his last gig he was a little bit more, yeah. And I don't know whether he felt he had to tone down on the TV, but I listened to him on the radio and he was just throwing punches. It was awesome, but different dynamics, you know. But once we got Dean on, that sort of filled up that side of the couch for a while, and it was awesome getting him on.
He's really good.
He was so good.
Yeah. And like, cause it definitely, he was like the guy that actually knew it all, and then me and Phil were just kind of giving him the stuff he needed.
Just poke him, yeah.
And
Because there's like 4 people in the world who skippered those boats, and he's one of them.
Exactly.
And the other 2 were racing.
Yeah, how did you land him? Did you just hit him up after he
Just hit him up.
just hit him up.
And he said,
And it was quite good. My favourite part about Dean was when the Steinlager moment of the cup, and it was his capsize. and he was watching it live, and I was like, shit, I don't know how he's going to go with it, but he handled it like a champ.
Yeah, he's
didn't he?
good as gold. And like he really loosened up the longer it went on. And and I think New Zealand fell in love with him again, which was kind of cool.
Exactly. Like, heard really good things about how he was portrayed. And
yeah, he's a really
he came
nice fella
across.
and really accommodating. And then he started asking for feedback as well. He'd text me, he'd call me, I'd go and see him, and anything else, am I talking to him? And I said, just make your answers like 60% shorter, you know, because we've got time for 6 questions if your answers are 20 seconds long. Mm-hmm. We've got time for 2 questions if they're a minute long, so let's cover more ground. Got it? You know, just plotted his way through. It was an epic. It was just such an adrenaline rush. Like I was doing 12, 14-hour days. Like you have to write a new script for live TV every day, not knowing if they're sailing the next day, not knowing if there's going to be delays. Yeah, it was frantic, man.
The biggest part about it was the factor that you didn't know they were going to sail. So there was a lot of filling, especially for you. You would have to fill in all the gaps. And that day, there was that one day that didn't sail.
We came on air. We had our build-up show, and then we delayed 10 minutes, delayed 15, delayed 20, and they just delayed for the whole 2 or 3 hours, and we said no racing. That was hard.
A lot of time on the couch.
Yeah, but it was still good. It was still no one left. Like the viewer numbers stayed up.
nice.
There were a couple of days that outrated the news.
Exactly,
It was ridiculous.
And it was outrated some of the Cricket World Cup.
Yep.
From
Really?
whatever the year it was. But I mean, that's ridiculous for a sailing. It shows how many Kiwis came and backed it.
Oh yeah, and free to air helps as well. And just everyone loves the America's Cup. You know, it's just Team New Zealand's just amazing. They are just amazing. The whole business structure, everything to do with offsetting their carbon, the whole thing about their whole InDesign team and the technology and getting that technical guy in from the States who makes gaming consoles and they've just got this amazing holistic approach.
Yeah.
All goes into a boat and it goes fast.
Makes for a good story.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
So at the start of like your process in writing the script, like how do you structure it? Like how long was the show? Like 4 hours?
Yeah, so it was we were on air at 3, they'd race at 4:15, off air at 6 in a perfect world.
Yeah.
And there's like ad breaks and there's sponsor commitments and stuff like that. So, and you had, some days you had 2 reporters, some days you had 3. So it's just trying to figure out the right type of stories that you want. So you want to do from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock is sailing. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock was a bit about selling the viaduct as the place to be, come down Auckland, come and get involved. So we'd be out buying mussel fritters, we'd be out seeing the goats that were down at the end, we'd be talking to fans in bars and getting interviews with sailors, and mate, that is so hard. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like sometimes a 2-minute interview could take 2 weeks to set up just to get someone. I tried for a month to get someone from American Magic, just got
no dice,
stonewalled. Went and met them beforehand. Good as gold. If we can't get your Dean, We'll get you someone, and it's not because Dean doesn't want to do it, but he's on every subcommittee, so he's in the sailing, the tactics, the wind, the this, the that. So he's in all of those. He's pretty much arrives at 6 and leaves at 11. But we'll give you someone. Never got a soul until they were out, and then we got Dean. But Jimmy Spittle was cool, but took a long time to organise.
What are your thoughts on Jimmy after, did you follow the 2017 America's Cup?
Yeah.
What thoughts from then into now, like how the media portrayed him? And
yeah, I think media can make the story what they want. Like the art of editing is incredible. I've always admired Jimmy for just an absolute competitor. And he never comes out and calls someone a dickhead. He didn't Dennis Conner it.
No.
He didn't absolutely badmouth them, but he's just got this amazing ability to drop these one-liners. Like,
they're amazing.
Yeah, just imagine if we won from here when they're 8-1 down, won their first race. Or imagine if we won.
Who says that? It's just
yeah, just amazing. But he didn't say it this one. I think he knew the whole time that he wasn't going to win this one. His management of Brand, he's phenomenal. And I met him once during the Cup, and he's just got an aura about him, like just a tremendous competitor. Never say die. We went and filmed him at 6 o'clock one morning, sparring with Joseph Parker. And Emily, our reporter, I said, just make it a bit different. So she went and interviewed him while he's doing press-ups and had the microphone and then chin-ups and stuff like that. And she just got some gold off him, and just a tremendous bloke, yeah.
He's a good guy because last 3 weeks ago now we had our big crash in Bermuda with Jimmy's team. Well, it was our fault, but
because you're on with Jimmy, aren't you?
Well, I'm not on with. I'm with Nathan.
Nathan
but Jimmy was on the US team, and we blatantly crashed and fouled him. And at the end of the day, we ended up still beating them overall, which is a bit weird. And they're trying to figure out the rules there, but the way, obviously, as anyone would be, he was pissed. But the way he handled it was pretty amazing, really, and it shows how much of a competitor he is because he came from the Cup. We've got Francesco Bruni on our team, just completely fouled him, but he came over and said, "Oh, yeah, it happens, sailing, it happens." So that's kind of good respect points for him. And he was in quarantine; he was across the room from me.
Oh wow!
And he was, I'd see him outside shadowboxing in the doing his workouts and stuff.
He'll be lining you guys up for a T-bone next regatta.
Don't worry. I would stay away from him. Luckily, I'm not going to be there, so I won't be in harm's way.
Yeah, him and Francesco still.
Yeah, they're tight. They're speaking Italian and whatnot.
Does Jimmy speak Italian?
Nah, but he obviously does the basics now. The team would have taught him all the basics.
The thing is, he's got lots of rubber on the road now, so he's experienced losses, he's experienced wins, and the more you lose, I reckon, the less they hurt because you get to deal with them more.
Yeah.
Whereas you get someone like when the All Blacks lose, it's devastation because they just don't get it. And when they win, it's like, yeah, of course we won. Then you look at Argentina. When they beat the All Blacks last year, I was so stoked for them. It was just off the hook. That was
massive, wasn't it? Yeah.
Off the hook celebration. It's like New Zealand play Argentina, emotions usually stay there because the All Blacks win because they're supposed to. And they don't. The Argentinians are over the moon. The All Blacks are through the ground. You know, and you need those in sport.
It was definitely good for the All Blacks as well.
Yeah.
Need a little wake-up call. Even the Rugby World Cup loss was a big wake-up call for the whole organisation.
I mean, I'd love to talk a bit of code. I would. It's where the heart and soul is. Probably more on the NRL side, but in terms of union, international games, where are that? Now, you've probably been asked this question a million times, but are you Fozzie or Razor?
Oh, shit. If I had a vote before the selection process of who would get it, I would have been Razor. I just think it was time for some innovation. And I know guys that have played for him and what they say about him. And it's like you ask guys that have played under Razor and they just say he brings things out of me and I don't know how he does it. He makes me believe more than anyone's made me believe. And I'm not saying Ian Foster's a bad coach, but I haven't heard players say that about him, if you know what I mean. I still want, I wasn't devastated or anything that Razor didn't get it. I was only devastated that I thought, shit, he might leave.
Yeah.
Like, he's been offered jobs overseas and he could quadruple his income, but he's turned them down.
And he's recommitted to 24, is it?
3 more years, yeah. Which is, he's such a legend, you know. He's just loves his surfing, loves Sumner Beach, loves his kids, loves his wife, loves Christchurch.
He's just a great Kiwi.
Yeah, I mean, he was devastated when he didn't get it, and he'll tell you that. He was absolutely devastated and thought he was going to get it. And but he's just like, I will get it, but I'm not going away to do it. You know, he could go and coach England. He could go and coach Wales. He could go and coach whoever he bloody wants. Anyone would take him, but he's staying here and he's going to do it that way. And he won't be wishing Ian Foster to fail so he gets sacked and then Razor gets it. He'll just keep doing what he's doing. He absolutely loves what he's doing. You know the awesome thing about Razor? He's got time for everyone. And I consider myself in the world of rugby a complete no one. But I've talked to him and met him a few times, and you know he's always been really friendly. And I remember that was before the final 3 years ago, and I was on halfway talking to the floor manager. Team had been out warming up, and he was walking back to the dressing rooms, and he always looks up at the stand and waves, and he saw me on halfway, 30 metres away, and he turned around, came up and said, "G'day, how you going?" 20-second chat, then went to the dressing room. So he saw me, recognised me, came, said hello, enjoy your night, and walked off. That's what Razor Robertson's like. You know, he's just a great man.
Oh,
Whereas,
top bloke.
Yeah, Steve Hansen just gave me a massive wide berth. You know?
Classic. Well, he only signed an initial 2-year contract.
They only ever signed them to 2.
Oh, so that it's only ever 2. Do you think that if he had a similar year than he did as to last year, would he get the door?
Oh, he might. It'd be brave because there's so much more at play with that. It's like by giving him the door, that's the New Zealand Rugby Union saying they made a mistake. So it's a bad reflection on them, and they don't want a bad reflection on them. So New Zealand Rugby will be begging for him to go well, sign him for another 2, win the World Cup, then change. That's what, and I think they'll go well this year because of any country in the world, our players have had the best prep. There's no excuse not to be unbeaten this year. Like they've had Super Rugby Aotearoa, Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. Australia haven't got the cattle. South Africa just been playing each other. Argentina just been stuck in their house with masks on. I mean,
same as the rest of the world.
We should smash the. I mean, there's been the Six Nations, there's been the Heineken, and all of that sort of stuff. So they're okay, but you know, we are by far the best prepared.
Yeah, I mean, you look at teams like England seems to be the team that scares me as a New Zealander the most. I don't
You know why?
Why?
Because they're the team you want to lose to the least.
I guess.
That's why they scare you.
Probably, yeah. I think there's probably a bit of a pride thing there.
Because I can handle, and it might sound weird, but I can handle Aussie beating us as long as they don't win the Bledisloe Cup. I don't mind them winning one a year. I can handle South Africa beating us because they're awesome. I can handle Ireland, I can handle Wales, I can probably handle France, but I can't stand it when England beat us. I just can't live with that.
I mean, for me, it's just their forwards lay like the best platform to play in like world rugby pretty much. Obviously, South Africa dominated them in the final.
Yeah.
But up until that point, you look at England,
played
you're
their
like,
final against us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, guys like Tom Curry, one of my favourite players, absolute weapon. Like their Lucies, their locks, and even their just the whole unit they've got going.
It's an amazing unit, eh?
It's unreal. And I mean, you were looking at the All Blacks during the World Cup, and you're like, fuck, like who do we have that can match that intensity?
Yeah. I remember there was a test match, and I'm thinking it was 2003. You guys born then?
Yeah, you got a couple of years in by then.
I think it was 2003, and it was at Wellington Stadium, and I'd done my cross, and I was standing off the field, but by the hoardings there, and Lawrence Delalio, I'm pretty sure, I think it was 2003, and Martin Johnson, was it? He's still in the team then? Anyway, and their forwards running out to go and play the game. And I was standing there in then their tight white shirts and their tight white shorts, and they were Goliaths. and the ground shook as they ran past, and their faces looked like they were just going to go and commit the most heinous crime. They were so on a mission, and I text work at the TAB and said, England win tonight. You could just see it. Like, I always, part of my ritual, I'd watch both teams warm up, and I reckon I had a 90% success rate at picking who's win by watching the warm-ups. Like, you can just see intensity, you can see focus, and that day, England in their warm-ups, I'm like, I've never seen teams hit tackle bags. That their intent was off the hook. This England team, they were on a mission, and All Blacks just did their warm-up, which is still pretty intense, but England was next, and then they ran out, and they charged, and their heels were banging the ground, and they were just charging past me, and the wind coming off, and I'm like, holy shit, and they banged us up. They won. It was just...
Got the pick.
It definitely seems like the way to beat the All Blacks is to come out and show intent, especially in that first 15 to 20 minutes. If you can get a good leg up, then you've got them on the back pedal.
Yeah.
But talking All Blacks, we've got your friend Beauden Barrett.
Yes, my good friend Beauden Barrett. Yes.
Coming back in. Where does he fit in the AB squad? Don't be biased.
Don't be biased. If I was selector, you're saying?
Yep.
10.
He walks into 10?
Walks into 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Even after the
season Richie Mo'unga's had?
Yeah.
Yeah. So go back and watch Richie Mo'unga's games for the All Blacks. Different level.
So I agree with Mark there.
Oh God, I'm getting shut down. But
we're not going to go bad with Richie. If Bodie broke his leg and Richie's at 10, I'm not going to go shit. I'm worried. They are outstanding first fives, both of them. And the same as when Bodie and DC were still going. Mm-hmm. I don't care who plays. Aaron Cruden, I don't care. Our stocks are so deep. But Bodie's he's got this poise at the top level. And Richie will get it, but I don't think he's got it now because he hasn't had a chance to. But I've seen him wilt under pressure for the All Blacks. I've seen him miss kicks under pressure for the All Blacks. And I haven't seen Bodie do that.
Yeah, I guess against England was where it really, in that World Cup final, when he was playing 10, Richie was playing 10, and they were on the back foot massive. And then, I don't know where he shifted to, but he definitely wasn't playing 10, and Beauden moved up from fullback. I think JB slotted back in. And definitely the shape is a lot better when there's a team coming at you.
See, I quite like the shape of, if you're going to play Richie Mo'unga at 10, put D-Mac at 15 and play small ball, like a basketball parlance. If you have Bodie at 10, you have Geordie at 15 and you play aerial. So, and that's how I think they're going to have two strategic attacking plans, and that's sort of what it might look like. Or you start Bodie at 15 and then you put Richie at 10, he comes off, Bodie goes in for the last half hour, and then you bring D-Mac on and you spark. Yeah. But I heard something a wee while ago that Richie Mo'unga targets the last 15 minutes of games when everyone's tired. And he doesn't quite often step and go early doors. He puts people into space and all that sort of stuff. And the longer the game goes on, the more he tends to feature. He's supremely fit, amazing eye, amazing timing. And he makes so much impact at the end of the first half and at the end of the game, because it's almost like his alarm goes off and he's going, it's my time. Everyone's gassed, and away you go. He is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, he's the quintessential fly half, like just the way he plays the game. So let's say we've got Barrett and Richie, and those are our two 10s, and that's it. Is Geordie Barrett the starting fullback?
Yes.
Who's nipping on his heels?
Will Jordan.
Not D-Mac?
D-Mac as well. I'd see D-Mac more, unfortunately, because he's so amazing. When you're that amazing, you become a utility. But Geordie's a utility. He can play wing and midfield. Will Jordan can play wing and fullback. George Bridge can play wing and fullback. We've just got so much, A lot
of talent.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's not saying... If by me saying Geordie, like I think Will Jordan's probably a better attacker than Geordie. He's faster off the mark. He's probably got a better step. But the aerial game is so important now. And Geordie's one of the tallest backs in the world, and he's immensely strong. He's a hit and go over. D-Mac and Will Jordan are a hit and spin and hope you haven't grabbed my shorts. So it's just completely different games. And I think safety and size with Geordie, always pick Geordie against South Africa and England. I'd probably go D-Mac or Will against Australia. You know, just horses for courses. Geez, I'm becoming a selector.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. I just want to touch a little bit more on the union, then a little bit on the NRL. I guess they're both in conjunction, really. Tuivasa-Sheck coming over into the rugby union space.
Yes.
How do you think he'll go?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Slot right in, I think.
What posse?
Second five.
Second five, not centre?
Second five, and I know that he's going to play second five.
Oof.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking
I like
news.
it.
Breaking news, and more breaking news. Can I say it?
I don't know. We can always cut it out.
The Blues are close to signing two high-profile Hurricanes.
Oh, massive.
I'm pretty sure they've got one across the line and they're 50-50 on the other one.
But the Hurricane stocks are so depleted.
I know, they're about to get more depleted. And they're my team, you know, so...
Shit.
Oh, no.
So they could potentially have this unbelievable backline.
Wow.
The Blues.
The back line.
Well, with Bodie back as
With
well.
Bodie back, yeah.
Bodie back and Roger at second. Imagine Bodie first five.
You've got to think
Roger
that he
second.
walked straight back into first five O'Terry Bakes on the bench.
Yeah.
And then...
And I love Oates because he's a Manawatu boy like me, and he doesn't let you down. He's steady. He's a good goal kicker. He's a good finisher. Very brave defender. But your first five's your quarterback, you know, and you need that spark. You need that X. You need that Richie Mo'unga. And it's the reason the Hurricanes haven't won a title for so long, and they did win one because they finally had a first five. I mean, they went years with good first fives like Jimmy Gopperth and David Holwell, and they've probably had the most first fives of any Super Rugby franchise. But you go back and look at all the winning Super Rugby teams, and you know, right back to Andrew Mertens and Carlos Spencer and Stephen Larkham from the Brumbies, Morne Steyn from the Bulls, and then just the conveyor belt of 10s from the Chris. You need a 10 to win Super Rugby. That's where, and they should be the highest paid because they are the most important person. You can all pay me now, number 10s. You can all pay me.
So Tuivasa-Sheck slotting in at second five. Why second five compared to centre? I don't know. Obviously, pretty much everyone hasn't seen a lot of his union game. But from what you watch in league, his passing doesn't seem to be amazing. So, and then his kicking is okay, but...
Yeah, I think his defence, and I know he's not a big man, but he's incredible.
Oh.
He's and if you remember when Nehi Milner-Skudder first came on the scene, he'd played 20s for Bulldogs, I think. He was a weapon, and he's small, you know. He's solid, but he's short, and he's just a weapon. Those league guys can tackle, and on attack, they quite often skip second five, first to centre. He can run a different angle. And there'll be interchange. It's not always 10, 12, 13. So I think it's probably safer there because your two passes from the forwards and your two passes from the wing. So it's not that you can hide there. But if centre is probably the hardest position to play, I think, in rugby defensively, you are the marshal. So people like Anton Leonard-Brown is a guru.
Yeah.
You know, an absolute guru.
He's also a giant.
Yes.
He is massive.
He's massive.
And when the Hurricanes won Super Rugby, Matty Proctor, an unsung hero, when they won, I asked TJ Perenara, what was the key to your success? And he said, defence. And I said, okay, what was the key to your defence? And he said, Matt Proctor, who was the centre. When the Hurricanes were good, Conrad Smith, the centre, they set the defence. They tell who to slide, who to go in, who to mark where. So I just think that initially that's too much responsibility for a leaguey, a brilliant leaguey, to take on that mantle. So I just think 12 for a while, and he might play on the wing early doors just to get a taste of
for it. Yeah.
Do you reckon it'll take long to get up to speed?
No, I think he's one of those freaks. You know, just one of those freaks. But I think for him, rules, getting reused to the 15-man code, I think 12 is an easier transition for him than centre or fullback.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Well, fullback is predominantly a lot of kicking at fullback.
Yeah, and
I'll
he
say-
can kick,
yeah,
but he's not a kicker,
yeah.
if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the NRL you've been watching recently?
Oh, yes.
Reece Walsh.
Reece Walsh.
The hot property in NRL, the Broncos' worst nightmare, letting him go. What happened? Oh, my gosh.
Super hot, isn't he?
Amazing.
He's just got dreamy eyes.
In that way.
He is. He's hot property in both ways. But, yeah, I mean, for the Warriors to pick someone like that up just as Tuivasa-Sheck is leaving, it's a massive pickup. Do you see him as a long-term fullback?
I do. He's 18, for God's sake.
Yeah, I guess.
Defensively, he's not very good, but that'll come, And I think when you're playing up in the line, and I know fullback's last line of defence, so it's pretty important, but your wings can push in and help you out. And we've got two monster wings. But again, just defensively, and all these oval ball codes, it's just become so important, defence nowadays, Might be a little bit too much on him at 6, and I think it's up to him. I think he wants to play fullback, but it's also about resting him and not burning him out. And, if he pops a shoulder or something at 18, you're going to have shoulder problems your whole life and all that sort of stuff. So he is so exciting, though. Holy shit.
Yeah, amazing to watch. Speed, acceleration, fucking phenomenal passing game. He seems to have it all. His kicking game as well when he's been playing 6 has been fucking mean.
Yeah, where do you want him to play?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so... Because I think if the Warriors are going to win a championship this year, he can't be playing fullback because he's going to leak
They're
too
not
much.
going to win this year.
Oh, but you don't know. You never know.
You got to believe.
You got to believe. You got to believe.
Oh, look, if we make the 8, that's incredible. Make the 8.
Yeah.
No home games. It's just a farce. I'd love them to bring in that thing that's done the rounds, that Warriors play at home every game next year. So
Surely.
surely.
How
good would that be? That would just be off the hook. But the thing about Reece, I want them to do a Jason Taumalolo 10-year contract.
Yeah.
$1 million a year.
Lock him in.
Get him now. Perform. If we make the playoffs, you get another $200,000 or fashion something. I mean, he's 18. He's got a child.
Yes, he does.
He's got his head screwed on. He's got great family. This is who you build a team around. This is Stacey Jones. This is Sean Johnson. This is a franchise player.
Yeah.
And he wants to be a career guy.
Exactly. Well, and
No brainer, really.
yeah, sign him up, lock him up.
And I can go to the corporates now while he's hot to trot and just say, we need third-party payments, which they're allowed to do, and get Chemist Warehouse involved or get Russell Coots involved.
I'm sure Russell loves his footy.
Yeah,
get and just get the third-party people involved and just say, we want to keep this guy, we want him a career guy. And, the great thing about professional athletes is there's an appetite in the corporate world now to get beside these athletes. Like I know players from the Hurricanes like Tamati Allison, for example. Great bloke. Played for the All Blacks. He's now assistant coach at the Crusaders. And in the rugby circles, they have professional development officers, and you get a day or a half day, a fortnight or something to work on something outside rugby. And Tamati just got involved with Malcolm Gillies, who's a property developer down in Wellington, and he'd just go and spend the day with him once a fortnight, and he taught him about property development and buying and selling houses and developing sections and all that sort of thing. And Tamati just was a sponge, and just learned all of that. Andrew Hoare went to Preston's butchery and learned how to bone out cattle beasts and stuff because he was going back to the farm, wanted to do his own home kills and butchery and do organic meat and all that sort of stuff. So if they got like a big corporate like the real estate people, Peter Thompson.
Barfoot Thompson.
Barfoot and Thompson. Just go to Peter Thompson and say, bro, we want Reece Walsh long term. He'll be the Barfoot Thompson. You can teach him about property. I mean, everyone wins. We get to keep him for his career. Mm-hmm. Pete Thompson gets a great ambassador, a good kid, head screwed on, teach him about real estate. When he's finished his rugby, he can go into that line of field. So it's finding the right sort of corporate partners.
That's what they do in Japan, sailing. That's the corporate. You get most of the teams in Japan they're all sponsored by a company that obviously the owner loves sailing, and then they want to support it. So basically, you get a contract, and then on the days you aren't actually training, you're working at the office or the factory, or there's Toyota Japan, a few other companies, and security guards, security companies, and that's how they basically, you do your sailing career for that company. You get everything paid for, and then you get a salary, and then after you're done your yachting, you're just working. You're basically promoting yourself up into the business. So definitely a good way to do it. Obviously, we're not talking millions here compared to what Reece Walsh could get, but in the sailing world, it's definitely.
You get a free T-shirt a week.
There you go, a free T-shirt. You get your boat paid for. It's fucking awesome, mate.
How good. Yeah, I guess the fitting final kind of point we'll touch on, just with your extensive background in the betting world, favourite sports to punt on?
Tough one.
No, for me personally, it's got to be a sport you love, and then because you know it well, and you know its nuances, and you know its external effects. So probably the sport I've had the most success in betting on, strangely enough, is cycling and Tour de France, and like I know the stages, most of the stages, and you can watch teams and you can see what they're targeting, and you know you've seen that their number one climbers had 3 climbs off and there's 1 climb before they go back on the flat. I'm all over that. But it's just about it's keep your own stats. Don't bet with your heart, Keep your own stats.
Be smart, right?
Like our gun punters back in the day would do as much research as me, and then it's me against them. And I researched, that was my job. I did 40, 50 hours a week, and that was my job. So I should have more time in a week than those guys to research. But I had every score of every Super Rugby game ever since 1996, and the halftime score and the weather conditions, day or night, who the ref was. I had everything it was all on a spreadsheet, and I had power ratings for every single player, and I just did everything. And the key, if you're a punter, is do your prices before you look at the TAB's prices, right? So if the Warriors are playing another mid-table team, let's say Manly, and you think, right, what price do I want for the Warriors and what price don't I want for the Warriors? And say, I definitely back them at 4, I definitely back them at 3, I might back them at $2.50. $2, I probably won't touch them. And so make up your own mind what your value is, having done all of your research, who's in, who's out, all the matchups and all that sort of thing. And then the TAB come out and they're $1.90. Don't bet. Don't bet.
Don't bet.
Don't bet. They're $3.30. Get in, because then you're backing your judgment. And then watch it analytically. So don't watch it. If making money on punting, you can't get emotional. You've got to stay rational. You've got to stay practical.
So say tomorrow there's 8 NBA games on, and you bet on every underdog and you get a $60,000 multi. Don't bet.
The NBA, here's some insight for you on the NBA. Study the referees.
Referees.
Really? Oh, that's fucking interesting.
So the referees, Matthew could come kill me if I tell you this. The NBA is all about ratings.
100%.
Right?
100%.
So they want LeBron in the final.
Heard it there for. I've said it so many times.
Yeah.
But.
So if they want, when Steph Curry was on fire and LeBron was on fire or whatever, the NBA have meetings with the referees about desired outcomes. And so there'll be a 50-50 call. They'll all go that way. They'll all go to Steph Curry. They'll all go that way. But goes up in the air, it goes out, could have been either of them, always goes that way. So he's a referee, and the current roster of the NBA has refereed, and I can't remember which particular team it is, he's refereed them 18 times, and they've won 17 times. And they've got a 50-50 record on the season, but 17 of the 18 times he referees them, they win. Now,
so is that the referees getting
not
paid out, or is it?
No, it's not. It's not. They're not getting a sling, but it's like I know too much. Like,
don't want to give away all your secrets.
I talked to a guy called Declan Hill, who is the foremost world expert on match fixing and massaging results and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'd encourage your listeners to go and listen to his podcast.
Declan Hill.
Declan Hill. I can't remember the name of the podcast, but it's Declan Hill. And he interviews an NBA referee who did this. So I'm not talking out of school. I'm only regurgitating what Declan had told me himself about 3 years ago. And then he's got this NBA referee to talk about. Are you Googling it now?
Yeah, it's not called Crime Waves, is it?
Yes.
It is.
Crime Waves.
Crime Waves.
Crime Waves. It's a 6-part podcast.
Ah, right.
It is fascinating. He's probably one of the most intelligent men I've ever met. He's like a PhD professor and everything. He's good mates with the Prime Minister of Canada. But he knows everything about match fixing. And I had a day, in fact, I had 2 days with him, just me and him, just talking. And the stories he told me were off the charts. I'm going to try and get him on the radio.
Yes, that'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get him for an hour a day for a week and do a Declan series. And I think he'll do it. I haven't approached him yet, but I think he'll do it.
Because Henry and I obviously find the NBA the hardest sport to bet on.
100%.
That's why we probably find it so enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I don't know. Like the big underdogs getting a point start at home. So a home underdog take the point start. Just about any sport is, and it's long term. It's not like tomorrow's game. And then it doesn't when you go, Steph, you put me crook. When I was at the TAB, we often talked about if as a private person, if you could go to the TAB and say, I want to buy a sport off you and I'll take the risk and I'll cop the losses or cop the wins and I'll buy that sport off you. The 2 sports that I would buy, because I see them as the most profitable, are golf and rugby league. The 2 hardest to pick. Rugby league is so hard to pick.
Yeah, it is.
The upsets always happen. Who beat Brisbane one the other night?
Yeah, against the Roosters.
Against the Roosters. Again, this is going to be weeks ago. But, and it was just like, no, it wasn't Brisbane. No, Manly beat
the Eels on the weekend.
Yeah, pumped them when...
Yeah, I think it was like 28-6 or something.
Yeah, when Bob Fulton had died. And it's just like, they don't happen. We had a punter years ago. I've gone off on another tangent.
No, you're right.
He started with 20 grand, right? And he was betting on $5, $10 shots every week, or nearly every day. And he'd won 40 bets in a row, and he'd grown his starting stake, which was either 20 or 30 grand, to 100, just on hot favourites. 30 bets, all winners. Then he backed the Roosters at $4, 100 grand, to beat West Tigers. And West beat them, $9 underdogs.
Oh, so my God.
He got 30 bets right, 1 wrong, and lost his initial 20 grand. So, and every time we bet on league, we're like, yes, we're a life chance. Rugby union, you never get, well, I say never. Japan beat South Africa, didn't they, at the World Cup?
That was massive.
That's like 1 in a decade result. Like
that was the start of the hot of Japanese rugby. That's where it ignited Japan as a country to play rugby. Oh, shit, we could actually do this.
Yeah, but I suppose it's also something about the World Cup, like getting up for the World Cup as well.
Yeah, like the thing I love about Japanese rugby, and I've had a few mates play over there and coach over there, and they are just so drill focused and they're so discipline focused. So a New Zealand team will practice kickoffs and they'll do like 5 or 6. Japanese team do them for 4 hours.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and they'll practice line-outs. Line-out drills at Hurricanes trainings, and I've been to hundreds of Hurricanes trainings. Line-out drills will be 15 minutes, 20 minutes if they've got a lot to work on. Japanese teams, 4 hours. And they'll train for 4 hours, then they'll go and they'll have a rest for 2 hours, and then they'll go and train for another 3. And they just train every day of the week, 7 hours, flat out. They are the fittest team in the world. Mm-hmm. They don't have the rugby DNA yet, but generationally that will come. They don't have the physical attributes for every position. Like, we've probably got 50 locks that we could choose from. They've probably got 4 because they just don't have height. Mm-hmm. They've got great props, wonderful halfbacks and wings and all of that. And occasionally they'll just, I can't remember the fullback's name. He's one of the best rugby players and fullbacks in the world. He retired a couple of years ago. They've got wonderful players. And Jamie Joseph's doing an amazing job over there. And it's about accepting the Japanese way and accepting the Japanese culture and bringing his bit in. And instead of going, you're going to play like the New Zealand way, it's foreign to them.
It is, yeah.
You've got to embrace it and massage it. And I think Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown are doing a wonderful job with them. Japanese rugby is exciting, man. I love watching it. I watch the J League, top league in Japan, quite often.
Couple of our boys over there having a crack. Is that the same one?
Yeah. So Bodie was in the final in the weekend. Again, that will date this, but Brodie Retallick's been there. Kieran Reid's just retired from there. There's heaps of them. Mark Abbott, Abbo, a lot of people probably haven't heard of him. He played for the Hurricanes. He's an absolute legend. He's like a gypsy that plays rugby. Like they go to these flash formal nights, and he'll turn up in dungarees and a straw hat. So he's one of those kind of roosters. He's just made the Japanese national squad because he's been there 3 years, so he's naturalised, and he's just a rooster. There's some great, Beaver, who's one of my good mates, Stephen Donald. He finished this year. Jimmy Marshall, who's got another great podcast, What a Lad podcast. Probably shouldn't promote other podcasts.
Oh, mate, go ahead. It's a kind community.
Yeah, so he's got a podcast called What a Lad, and he just talks to lads,
Lads.
and they just tell rugby yarns. It's a fantastic podcast. And so he played in Japan. I know lots of guys that have played in Japan, and it's awesome. Still one place I've never been. I had a good friend of mine was playing there about 7 or 8 years ago, and he said, come over, and I wish I had, Another good friend of mine, Ben Herring, who used to play for the Hurricanes, he's coaching there. He's just got back, gets out of quarantine in 2 days. I should have gone when he was coaching and playing, but I really want to get to Japan. It's one of my countries I'm yet to tick off.
There you go.
You're looking across the table of Japan's #1 tour guide, Takahashi.
we had some good times in Japan, Henry and I.
Yes.
Oh, have you been with the tour guide?
Yes, I would have been fucked without him. Couldn't speak a word of any of the language. It's actually I've found one of the hardest places to get around when you've just got English on your side. You Len was with me for 24 hours, 365, the whole time. And then he left to go. You went to the UK.
I went to the UK and left
to
on your own.
do another GP thing. And he said, it's all good, mate. It's easy. Just catch this train. You'll go here. Then once you get there, just walk to this bus and then you'll go to the airport and you'll be sweet. Okay. And keep in mind so we were over there because it was a training camp. It was a training 49er training camp, so all the 49ers go over and train away in preparation for Tokyo, which was supposed to happen last year, but obviously COVID happened. Didn't end up happening. But anyway, he's tells me to get on. We've finished this training camp, had a bit of a big night in Tokyo. I think we got home at about 5:30 in the morning or something, got back for an hour's sleep. And then he goes, okay, mate, jump on the train. I go, right. Hungover, go down, get on the train, looking at my maps. I'm like, oh, yeah, sweet. Jump on. I'm like, I'm supposed to be going north.
It's going the wrong way.
And I'm going 20 minutes south. And I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? Get off, ask the lady, no English, just jump on another train. Luckily, Hail Mary it, and you can kind of get into a bit of rhythm. But
I would have got a taxi.
I don't even know how to get a taxi over there if you can't find one. What's the process?
Wait,
you just wait?
I guess you go to the train station and you got to ask the lady to call you a taxi. It's probably the best way to do it.
Do you speak Japanese?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
So, well.
Go on, say.
You're such a loser for getting the wrong train.
Yeah, say that. Go on, crank it out. It'll be funny.
君は違うトレイン電車乗ってバカです。
Yeah, what he said.
There you go. I mean, the big night probably didn't help.
I've heard about this nightclub there. Is it called Godzilla's or something like that?
There is probably one called Godzilla. I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like Michael Leach, the Japanese rugby captain, is like the Lord of Japan, and he is
the Lord of Japan. Everyone knows him.
We were on the same flight home.
Yeah.
Were you?
Yeah. I managed to sneak my way into a lounge. They had an Asahi, like a thing you put the glass in, you click it, and then it just auto-fills it perfectly.
Oh, wow.
And who was behind me on my left shoulder going, fuck, that's all right, look up. Ah, there he is there.
Big man, Leachy.
I was like, oh, hey, mate, it's not fucking bad.
It's amazing who you run into, because we ran into Brad Webb and Anton Leonard-Brown and at R&V as well.
Yeah.
That's when we realise how big they are, because when you see them on the same level ground.
Yep, Anton Leonard-Brown is deceivingly massive. Like,
They're just solid through here, eh?
All you think about is, like, imagine getting the footy and looking up and going, right, I'm going to have a fair old crack at this, and he's just going to flatten me like a pancake. Like, no thanks.
Don't play run it straight with those.
Play run it straight.
Hell no.
But I mean, you go back to the betting stuff. Like, okay, well, how did you get into the TAB? Like, when you were young, did you play footy?
Played rugby.
Rugby. What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was really, really young, I wanted to be a policeman. But when I was like 6, I wanted to be a policeman, have a moustache, and smoke a pipe. I don't know why, but they're the 3 things I wanted in life.
Okay.
And then as I got older and just fell in love with sport, played everything and watched a shit ton of sport on TV. And then I wanted to be a TV cameraman so I could go to all the sport and do that. And then I decided I wanted to be a TV presenter because...
Why not be in front of the camera, right?
Yeah. And I'm sort of in my teens. I thought, well, that'll never happen. And didn't look at broadcasting school or anything like that. And then when I was old enough, I started punting and started betting offshore because TAB didn't have sports betting. I used to bet on the horses, and I've owned a number of horses over the years, but I love sports betting and always kept my own stats, even from way back, just who beat who and by how much. And that was because they had wind and they had a man sent off. And I'm just a stats freak.
A spreadsheet?
Yeah, I'm a numbers freak, yeah. So I was going to be an accountant. That's originally what I wanted to do.
All right.
And then the TAB were going to start sports betting, so I applied for a job and didn't get it. And they expanded, and I applied again, and I didn't get it. And they expanded again, and I'd done some research, and they were employing from within. So I got another job in the TAB and another in the technology area. I just bullshitted my way in. And then after 3 months, you don't know what you're doing. I said, yeah, you're right. So I ended up on the sports betting desk. But yeah, I'd been sports betting for a few years before that, and I kept books on how much I'd spent, how much I collected, the things I'd won on, the things I'd lost on, and I just did all of that. And then eventually junior bookmaker for a couple of years when you're just learning all of the systems, all of the processes. And I got in about 6 to 9 months after it started in New Zealand, and we had these 3 Aussie guys there for 2 years teaching us all, and I just loved it, Like, I went in on my days. I went in 7 days a week because I just loved it. I didn't want to miss a thing. And then we started live betting, like betting during the game, and that was my role. And so rugby, you're just changing the odds as the game's playing. And I always remember there was one game that the All Blacks were playing Wales in Hamilton, and we were staying in the motel right next to the ground. And so I'd do my cross at the TAB, and then I'd just jump in a cab, get back to the hotel, and I'd do the live trading off the TV on my laptop. But I could sit it on my table, on my deck, on my deck thing out from my room, and the game was being played there, and I'm live betting off the game. And I was like 7 seconds ahead of the world with tries and stuff like that because the delay of the satellite feed. Yeah. And so I'd be like, changing my price, and then I'd have the other bookmakers' prices here, and they wouldn't change, and I'm like, but it's just scored a try. It's just, and then they changed. I went, hang on. Yeah, so I was like having a bet on the side, but, and I always remember Joe Rakathoko got an intercept try. Yeah. As soon as he got the intercept, I had a bet on next try scorer. Yeah, so I had a profitable day that night. Yeah,
decent.
Yeah, but nowadays there's an automatic delay on every bookmaker in the world for that satellite reason. Like sometimes it can be up to 12 seconds before it hits your screen from when it actually happened.
I mean, times when I'm just spamming my phone like, make the bet, but it's just suspended. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
No good.
It's your worst nightmare.
Yeah, my goal was to never suspend a book.
Yeah.
And we had another trader who would always just say, you'd be on attack and he'd suspend it. And why you suspend it? He said, they might score a try. And I said, but they might not.
Exactly.
And so I had the stats of inside the 22 from a line out, they score a try 30% of the time. So I make a 30% adjustment to the price. Whereas other people would do it as if they were going to score. But I know that 70% of the time they don't score. So I make a 30% adjustment to the price, and people back it thinking they're going to score, and then they don't. So I've sold that bet 30% lower than what it should have.
Right.
You know? So it's just massaging all of that stuff. So stats, boys, it's stats that, like, there's stats out there that you can access or even keep yourself, and it's amazing how true. Again, long game won't happen every single game, but over the long game, the patterns are there. You know.
What do you reckon you're all time? You reckon you're up all time, like in all the bets?
Nah. I don't. I kept betting for about. Like, I didn't bet a lot. I bet often, but I didn't bet a lot. And for me, the financial wins were nice, but it was just like the morale boost I got from I beat them. You know, I had a little scam going with myself for a while when Matty Johns and Andrew Johns were both playing for Newcastle, and TAB weren't operating then, and I'd ring Centrebet, and I'd show you had to ring them. You get the odds on teletext on TV, and I'd ring Centrebet, and I'd put $10 first try scorer in the Newcastle game. I want Johns, and they go, "Yep, $10 on Johns, good as gold." Boom, boom, boom. And I thought, so now I've got two players for the price of one, because I didn't say which one, you know. But they never, ever, ever scored the first try, you know. But I'd kept ringing, and there was a guy on the other end of the phone. His name was Murray Fish. Like, you got to know the bookies on the phone. And I did it again, and he goes, "Mark, which Johns?" And I went, oh, Andrew. And he's going, "We're on to you, buddy." All good, Muzz. So it's just all these little loopholes and stuff. But it's just finding patterns. Like, there was a pattern, and I haven't kept stats for about 5 years in this way, but Wellington teams that go to Christchurch always outperform the line. So if the line is Crusaders are 12-point favourites, Wellington or the Hurricanes always went under 12. It didn't mean they win, but they always bet the line. Auckland teams against Wellington, the opposite. Some teams have got a hoodoo over other teams. You know, they just can't beat them. There's just hoodoos. And so I don't know what they are now, but back, and I'm talking, this was when Jerry Collins was playing and Rodney Suialo and Chris Marsoe, and they just used to muscle up against the Crusaders, just late tackle them, high shots, and just completely throw them off their game. And Jerry Collins said to me, and I quote, these aren't my words, he said, "The Crusaders boys don't like brown man rugby." And that was, and I said, "What do you mean?" And he's going, "Hit them high, hit them late, hit them hard, just bury them, and when they go to get up, just put your hand in their face, just ruffle them, and just swear at them and get right in their grill, and they just get shit scared, you know." And that's how they took on the Crusaders in Canterbury, and I loved it, you know, because it was almost like the rough and tumble guys go to the preppy guys, you know, the well-educated and the clinical and all that. And it's just smash, and I used to watch them play, and I'm like, man, Jerry's right, you know. But that was their weapon, you know. That was the only way they could beat them.
No, it's a massive talking point at the moment in the NRL. All that late shot, high shot kind of carry on. I mean, do you think it's justified how harsh the punishments are? Do you think the punishment matches the crime?
Now, I'm older than you guys, so I'm probably a bit more sensible. I think what they're doing, and what Peter V'landys, the head of NRL, is doing, is preparing the league to not suffer multi-million-dollar lawsuits in the future like the NFL has. And what they've done is made these rules and said, adjust, or you're penalised, or you're sent off. I mean, Victor Radley, everyone loves Victor Radley and the way he plays and cuts people in half, and it's amazing to watch. But the guys on the other end of that, you know, who are getting, you know, busted sternums and concussions, and I know 64% of the concussions come from the tackler, not the tacklee, and I get all of that, but they're just trying to just tone everything down a bit, and I think they've pushed the boat way out, but they'll pull it back a little bit. So it's almost like they've gone 100%, but they only actually want to get to 80, but let's go 100, give a couple of concessions, but something has to be done, and I do get sick of people saying, you know, they need to bring back the biff and all of that sort of thing. They've got 125 kilo props now, you know?
Mm.
You know, back when Quinton Pongia and Johnny Lomax, guys you wouldn't have heard of, Brent Todd, these guys, they're 105. And these 120 kilo guys can run at 100 kilometres an hour at each other. And it's the explosion factor, the human body's still the human body. The collision, and we see it in rugby, the collision. I always remember one of the first All Black tests. When the All Blacks play, you got to, as soon as you've done your TV thing, you got to get off. You got to clear the sidelines. And I was standing on the sideline, and I done my cross, and I was standing next to Ian Smith, and I said, "Okay, Smithy, I'm going up to the commentary box. You know, just stay here, just hide behind the camera stand, just stay here for the anthems and the haka. It's amazing." And so I'm like me to you away from the boys when they're singing the anthem, and then they turn around and do the haka, and I got chills. And I stayed there 1 minute longer, and they kicked off. So they set up, and all the forwards are over there, and they did a tricky kick-off and kicked it, and Joe Rokithoko caught it, and a blindside flanker came and tackled him like 5 metres away from me, and the sound of that impact, it would have killed me. It just would have killed me. And I was just, and he just spins around, bounces up and gets away, and I'm just like, how long can the body do that, you know? And you go and meet with 60-year-old ex-All Blacks who were playing 30 years ago, and the collisions were nowhere near as hard, and their bodies are fucked.
Mm.
They are just poked. And they didn't have pain-killing injections, and they didn't have... Guys are playing with needles now. You know, Richie McCaw played with a broken foot. His body... I mean, he's Superman. He's probably the wrong example. But you know, I've got a good mate of mine who had one game for the All Blacks, and he had a career-ending foot, snapped his foot in half, got screws and bolts and plates and all of that, rehab for 3 years, came back and played 2 seasons, and then just couldn't walk. Mm-hmm. And then he went in and said, "Check out my foot." His whole foot was basically held together by arthritis. And they had to open his foot and scrape all his bones and rebuild this foot, and now he can't bend his ankle. And he's 38, 39, and his hips knackered, his shoulders semi-frozen, and he's 39, you know?
Yeah.
How's he at 60? And so I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. It's like these guys sign up for it, they know what they're into and all of that, but they don't have the life experience of an adult, of a 40-year-old to make rational decisions. It's tough, man.
Puts a massive emphasis on looking after your body. Like, rugby is probably a hard sport, but it shows like the conditioning, even having top level conditioning.
On any sport,
it's scary to see that could end up when they're 60.
Mm. Well, you look at Adi Savia, for example. He's had 2 pretty big injuries in the last couple of years. You wouldn't find power to weight ratio, no one better. Determination, no one. His fitness, his rehab, his diet, his mental clarity. Holistically, he is the perfect rugby player, and his body breaks because he's against enormous. You get 2 humans coming at you from opposite directions, and I don't want to sound like a soft cock, but it's just like I fear for the future of rugby and league with that. Like, my sister won't let her son play rugby or rugby league because it's too dangerous, and mums have the say over sons.
Yeah.
Dads don't have the stake. I really want to. No. And you know, for years, junior football numbers have outweighed rugby and rugby league, and I honestly don't know where the answer is. I do fear for the future. I do fear what it looks like in 10 years, but I don't know what the answer is. I love the games. I love the collisions, but geez, you wouldn't get me in them. Christ.
Spectator
sport.
Nah, you beauty. Hey, look, Mark, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about a number of different things.
Oh, so many things.
Hopefully we can get you back on when you're full steam on your radio show.
Steaming.
Ahead.
Maybe we can.
You've given me an idea, actually. For one of the days, I could do interviews with podcasters.
There you go.
There you go.
That's quite. I could get Jimmy Marshall. I can get you. I can get Brad Webber's done one. And just because I had an idea for a podcast actually called Pod the Pod.
Pod the Pod.
Yeah, and do a podcast on podcasters around the world. So I wanted to get Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And get Dax Shepard and like the big. You don't know who Dax Shepard is, do you? He's like one of the biggest podcasters in the world. It's called the Armchair Expert. He gets.
Oh, the Armchair Expert. Yeah,
that's him. Yeah. So he got Prince Harry on a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
He gets everyone on, but Joe Rogan's like my podcast hero, but they're fucking long. You got to have a trip to Wellington in the car. He has like 3 hour ones.
Flight to Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, but pod the pod. So maybe I could do a podcast week.
That'd be cool.
That'd be quite cool, eh?
Yeah.
And just say who you've spoken to, what your favourite stories are, and
That's the
I mean,
thing,
we've heard some pretty big stories already, and we've only 9 through. So
Yeah,
by the time we get more, we'll be
exactly. Early days, but yeah.
thanks,
early
mate.
days and happy days.
Cheers.
Go well, fellas.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Appreciate
mate.
it.
You beauty.